Stop calling it overthinking. The silence came first. A reply that never came. A conversation that stopped mid-thread. A room that went strangely quiet after you finished talking. Silence looks harmless. No words, no argument, nothing you could point at. That's exactly why nobody sees it coming. Because your brain does not treat an empty space as empty. When information disappears, it doesn't sit patiently and wait for the answer to arrive. It starts building one out of whatever material is lying around. And almost nobody catches the moment it happens. They think they're thinking things through. Being careful. Reading between the lines. They're not. They're filling in a blank that was never theirs to fill. Two people can walk out of the exact same silence. One assumes everything is fine. The other is certain something is terribly wrong. Nothing changed except the story in their head, and that story started long before either of them noticed. Here's why it starts. Your brain isn't built to enjoy uncertainty. It's built to delete it, even if it has to invent the answer to do it. In 2000, psychologist Kipling Williams, along with Christopher Chung and Wilma Choi, published the Cyberball Experiment. Participants sat down to play a simple online ball-tossing game with two other players. Then the ball stopped coming. Nobody insulted them. Nobody explained. They were simply quietly not thrown to. Within minutes, participants reported feeling rejected, anxious, and worthless, and many started explaining it to themselves. Maybe they'd done something wrong. Maybe the others didn't like them. The other players were computers. The silence never said any of those things. Their brains wrote every word. So silence isn't painful because of what it tells you. It's painful because of what it permits your imagination to tell you instead. And your imagination has one serious flaw. It would rather be certain than be right. The first sign is a swap so quick you don't feel it. You stop asking, what do I actually know? And you start asking, what probably happened? Those two questions sound almost identical. They are not. Facts stop. Guesses multiply. Every guess becomes the floor that the next guess stands on, and within 20 minutes, you're reacting to a story that has never existed anywhere outside your own head. And because you built it yourself, it feels more credible than anything anyone could tell you. If that still sounds like ordinary caution, watch what happens to your attention next. The second sign is that tiny details start carrying enormous weight. A shorter text than usual, a missing emoji, a pause before someone answers. None of them prove anything. But silence changes the exchange rate on evidence. Ordinary behavior gets promoted to Exhibit A. Think about the meeting. You share an idea. Nobody reacts. Your manager says, let's move on. That's the whole event. On the drive home, you play it back 11 times. Maybe they hated it. Maybe everyone thought it was stupid. Maybe you've quietly damaged something. The next morning, a coworker mentions, in passing, that the meeting was cut short because half the room had a deadline at noon. Your idea was never the problem. The empty space after it was, and your brain refused to leave it empty. The third sign is stranger, and it costs you more. You slowly stop trusting what people directly tell you and start trusting what they didn't say. A friend says they're busy. You hear rejection. Your boss says, we'll talk about it later. You hear a verdict. Someone looks tired and you hear disappointment. Notice the direction of that. The less information you get, the more interpretations you produce. And the more interpretations you produce, the harder it becomes to accept the simple one. Eventually, reassurance stops working entirely. Someone tells you it's fine. Part of you nods. Another part says, they're just saying that. That's the point where overthinking quietly changes jobs. It stops looking for the truth. It starts scanning for danger. You can watch the whole machine run in a single afternoon. You text your partner at lunch. They usually answer in 10 minutes. Today it says read, and nothing comes back. An hour. Then 2. First thought, they're busy. Second thought, they're annoyed. Third thought, something has been wrong for a while and you've been too slow to notice. By evening, you've re-examined last night's conversation for evidence. Then, sorry, my phone died in a meeting. 6 hours of suffering, assembled entirely out of nothing. The fourth sign is the one your body already knows about. You begin having conversations that never happen. Not out loud, inside. You rehearse the argument. You draft the explanation. You imagine what they'll say tomorrow, then your reply, then their reply. And sometimes you have lived through an entire conflict before the other person has even woken up. Your heart rate climbs. Your shoulders lock. Your mood is destroyed by a fight that does not exist. But the clearest sign is the one hiding in plain sight because you'd never file it under overthinking at all. You've started manufacturing noise. The podcast goes on before you've checked the mirror. Music plays the moment you're alone in the apartment. It isn't that you want any of it. It's that unbroken quiet has become genuinely uncomfortable to sit in. In 2014, Timothy Wilson left people alone in a room for 15 minutes with nothing but their thoughts and a button that delivered a painful electric shock. 2/3 of the men pressed it. One man pressed it 190 times. Not because he was bored, because he'd rather feel something real than keep listening to what silence was saying about him. Here's the uncomfortable part. Silence never reveals who other people are. It reveals what your brain believes when nobody is talking. Most of us spend years trying to fix the wrong end of that. We want faster replies, clearer answers, more reassurance. But if the world handed you every one of those, your mind would locate the next empty space by Thursday. This was never about silence. It was about what you do with uncertainty. The habit can change, not by forcing optimism, not by pretending you don't care. It changes when you delay the story. The next time silence shows up, catch the first explanation your mind offers, and then simply don't believe it yet. Not because it's wrong, because it hasn't earned it. Facts come from outside. Stories come from inside. Learning to feel the difference might be the most useful thing your mind ever learns to do. Silence was never asking you to suffer. It was only waiting to see whether you could leave a blank space blank. The silence never said anything about you. You did. What's the last silence your brain turned into a story that turned out to be completely wrong? Put it in the comments. You'll notice how many strangers invented the exact same one. And if you'd rather see the mechanism than be told to relax, subscribe. One video a week, one mental pattern taken apart before it takes another year off your life.